Hello there, my name's Card. I'm a long-time progressive organiser and community activist. Here on my YouTube page, I like to make these videos about what I know and what I've learned. And in my last one, I talked for about 20 minutes about gender norms, how they came about, and how you personally can just start ignoring them if you want. That video itself started getting into the 4-digit view count within about 48 hours, and the audio-only version I made 6 months ago ended up with about 5,000 views and a fair few comments too. So I just wanted to make something of a quick follow-up before I move on here, where I can clarify a few points, add a few more, and answer a few of the concerned comments I can already see coming in, or anticipate might, if I don't preempt them. Also, if you happened not to see that last video before finding this one, I'll link it at the top of the description so you can go watch it, since it does decidedly come first. Without further ado, firstly, while a lot of the last video is bullish point-making, I stand by it. I think the best and most progressive way forward is with broad acceptance of self-ID when it comes to something like gender, including affirming non-binary identities and letting people experiment freely at their own pace with what terms they like to use. And, for what it's worth, I'll canonically answer to any pronouns myself. And I also think that billowy and flowing clothes actually look great on people of all genders, and I'd like it if it was more mainstream for masculine-presenting people especially. Basically, I think the Scots have the right idea. Men's skirts are cool. I don't think gatekeeping people out of what terms they want to use is the way to go. Not just because you would be hard-pressed to explain why some stuff that falls under the trans label is valid and some isn't, but because splitting up the wider LGBT+ community is literally what all the reactionaries are trying to do at the moment. You shouldn't play into the whole divide and conquer thing. That includes not trying to separate non-binary and gender non-conforming people, including those who don't medically transition, who identify with the trans label, from the rest of the transgender community. Envies and the rest of the decidedly GNC crowd aren't just spicy cishet just because you don't like them, and they have just as much a place under the trans umbrella as anyone else if they want it. And frankly, any of them does probably have better personal politics than the average bitter trans medicalist trying to gatekeep identities anyway. I don't think anyone who falls under that broader trans label is due any lesser deference in the discourse just because they don't see medical intervention as part of how they want to live their life. Anyone that wants in under the trans, or more broadly queer, label is allowed in, and they don't have to prove anything to the elder transsexual medicalists who are, funnily enough, just one step away from hitting all the same talking points TERFs use to demonize trans people anytime they rail against any other part of the extended LGBT community. That being said, I'm not anti-medical transition for anyone who wants to do so either, of course. In fact, I think they should stock both flavours of HRT on pharmacy shelves, just so anyone that wants it can just shoplift it really easily. Quickly addressing a few of the other things I got comments about. 1. Gender dysphoria. I can believe that that's a real thing. I'm not doubting that or denying anyone's lived experiences. But I certainly don't think a diagnosis of dysphoria, or even the occurrence of it, is essential to someone choosing to transition socially, or even in a DIY medical way if they really want. So it's a fairly moot point either way as far as I'm concerned. The whole woe is me oppression Olympics bit is tired and lame as well, and you're not more valid than anyone else just because you're really mopey about how you used to look either. 2. On Xenogenders and unconventional pronouns. I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with people wanting to explore their sense of self with made-up genders and all sorts of neopronouns. For those who don't know, the basic premise of these is the idea of describing one's gender with essentially an aesthetic term as a point of reference, rather than a simple identifier like masculine or feminine. Once again, I have zero interest in telling people, particularly younger queer people, what words they should or shouldn't be calling themselves. No one using the neopronouns or any other novel terms they pulled out of 2014 Tumblr is harming anyone else doing it. And if you think the neopronouns are cringy or whatever, then just don't use them personally, but keep it to yourself, because there's no value in making strategic optics concessions or whatever to the transphobic right wing that's gonna hate you for being normal trans anyway. 3. Lastly, whether or not you need to disclose that you're trans to a prospective partner. This is the sort of hypothetical that comes up from time to time in queer spaces, and I think the correct take is that you're never likely to be in a position where it actually matters, realistically. By all means, feel free to lie about that sort of thing when you're out meeting people and you feel you'll be able to get away with it if you really want to, or if you feel it's for your own safety or something. You aren't under any moral obligation to tell the truth about something like that. But whether you're just trying to hook up for the night or you're looking for something longer term, it is probably best to only go for someone who won't have an issue with the truth and you can just be upfront about things. Once again, thinking about how these sorts of things play out in real life solves them. And that's basically everything that I felt was worth following up on from the last video. If you still want to hear more from me, feel free to subscribe, or just go through this channel's back catalogue. Either way, bye for now, and have a lovely day.